And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Sunday morning's flying weather graphic showing IFR, Northern Panhandle, VFR to the south, some IFR up here over the Tanana Valley areas with marginal VFR up to another narrow band of IFR there for the Brooks Range, marginal for the Arctic coast, good VFR here south of the mountains there, right on down to Bristol Bay, Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, and pretty good VFR south central Alaska with some marginal stuff over the Talkeetnas out to the west. Next system pushing a band of IFR into the eastern Aleutian areas, and then that shifts up to the northeast tomorrow afternoon to the Pribilof Islands, barely making it down to Unalaska Island now, so the Aleutians, marginal VFR to Kiska, eastward into the Alaska Peninsula, marginal VFR areas of here over the eastern interior up to the Arctic coast, and a little bit of marginal VFR hanging in over Prince William Sound, and a little bit along the North Gulf Coast. Otherwise, the southeast coastal area is looking good with VFR. That holds into Monday morning there for the Panhandle, North Gulf Coast, most of the Copper River Basin, most of south central Alaska as well. Really in the west here, no change. VFR holds from now the Brooks Range southward to the Alaska Peninsula. Still some IFR here over the southern north slope and into the Brooks Range with marginal VFR for the Arctic coast and just a narrow band of IFR out here over the central Aleutians that extends down to Adak and then eastward there to about Unalaska. And for Monday afternoon, marginal VFR here for the Fox Islands, Pribilofs, right up to St. Lawrence Island. IFR, another system here out over the western central Bering Sea from Atka Island, or actually east of Atka extending westward. Good VFR here, west coast, right into the interior, across all of southern Alaska. Now along the Alaska Range here northward, marginal VFR, as you can see, covering much of the north slope in the Arctic coast, as well as marginal VFR for the Panhandle. Passes, Anatuvik, marginal VFR, and for Adigan, same forecast, kind of a marginal day there for both passes. But Lake Clark and Merrill, Alaska Range, VFR, rainy VFR, windy, a little bit marginal VFR possible, especially on the northern entrance. Isabel, possible marginal conditions as well, especially early on. In Mentasta, though, optimistically forecasting a VFR day. Tanita, marginal VFR to start, becoming VFR during the morning into the afternoon. And for Portage, VFR and Chilkoot and White looking marginal. Freezing levels here, 2,000 to 4,000 feet, northern Bering Sea down into Bristol Bay, right along the North Gulf Coast here, and about 4,000 feet over the Northeast Pacific in the Gulf of Alaska. Warmer air out west here, 10,000 to 12,000 feet there over the central Aleutians ahead of that next system pushing eastward. And for icing, with that front pushing on out to the east, we've got an area of possible considerable moderate rime icing, mostly rime here. St. Matthew Island down across the Pribilofs in the Alaska Peninsula, and then also up here over the northeast part of the state, possible considerable moderate icing up there as well, with just some isolated moderate down the east side here into the Copper River Basin, North Gulf Coast, and the north coast of the Panhandle. Upper level wind flow here, low pressure in the Gulf of Alaska, south to north winds, 65 knots over the Panhandle, northwesterlies here over the western interior, it's 65 knots coming down into Cook Inlet, a little bit stronger there by the time it gets to Kodiak Island. And out to the west here, westerlies right along and south of the Aleutians at about 150 knots. And for 9,000 feet here, we have this elongating trough with and frontal system with a low pressure area near the Pribilof Islands. Southeast winds 40 knots there on the east and north side of that, but stronger winds out of the northwest, 55 to 65 knots here coming across the Aleutians. Pretty light for the interior. And this low dropping into the Gulf of Alaska, 40 to 45 knot winds swirling around that center. 3,000 feet, a little bit stronger. We've got actually 40 to 50 knot winds here ahead of a frontal boundary right through this area. Not too wide, narrow band there and mostly off the coast. And from there, looking at turbulence, that'll bring possible moderate turbulence to the coastal areas of the Panhandle up to maybe Yakutat, Light to isolated moderate along and off the North Gulf Coast, down to the east side of Kodiak Island, out to the west here. Possible considerable moderate turbulence there from False Pass westward to Atka Island, and maybe shimmy in at 2 as well.